Hey, Star Wars fans, welcome to another edition of Rule the Galaxy, episode 146. My name is Nick Shesky. I'm in the pilot seat tonight, one of our regular co-hosts, subbing in for Joe Molinaro. And man, we love doing this and that you guys get a chance to jump on here with us. And so welcome to the show. Glad you guys are here. We got a great show planned for this week. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of the way and introduce some of our great co-hosts that we have. I'll start with those who have been here before, and we'll introduce our special guests that we have for tonight as well, too. But if you're watching on YouTube, in my upper right corner, Mr. Sam Caldwell, back from the dead. He's got a little baby boy here. And Sam, how the heck are you, brother?
I'm good, Nick. Thanks. Just rolling off a couple days of not as much sleep as maybe would have liked, but starting to get back to normal here. So I'm doing great. Kenobi's done. We're living right now.
Word on the street is that you named your boy Luke off of a certain Star Wars character. True or false?
It for the sake of legal records, it has to be false. If anybody's listening to this that might question otherwise, but if one were to say it wasn't a nice little like bell in the back of my head when I heard it, I was all for it.
And by legal, if anybody's listening to it, you mean your wife who's listening to the bench upstairs
absolutely.
right now? That
yep.
No, you absolutely didn't name it. That's awesome, man. Well, we're glad you're on. We're excited to talk some Kenobi and some other great stuff tonight. But also joining us, as always, our incredible content creator and social media extraordinaire, one of our regular co-hosts, Mr. DDoc. How are you, man?
What's going on? Not much. Had a little bit of issues getting on the computer, but I guess after a little over a year, you guys are used to me being about 5 or 10 minutes late every single episode. So I think it's probably just expected at this point. I'm always scrambling.
Man, you were perfect timing. Jumped in right when you need to. How's that fresh baby that you have?
She's doing good. I mean, the problem is this is the first baby I have had who will not take a binky. So when she's freaking out and I'm holding her, it's not good. I'm just like, all right, here you go. She's, yeah. So I'm doing research though. I'm going to find a binky that she likes. I will do it.
So if you're listening to this show and all of a sudden you hear incoherent rambling or one of us just trails off in conversation, it's because we're all sleep deprived. We don't have enough brain cells left between us to actually put together coherent sentences. So bear with us tonight. We're excited for a good show. And we have a special guest with us tonight. First time on the show, someone who we actually had the chance to meet down at the ICCC a couple months ago when we were down there. But we're so privileged to have Mr. Rick Prince on with us tonight, otherwise known as Darth Maul, otherwise known as, well, I'll let him introduce himself. I'll stop introducing. But Rick, welcome to the show, man. Glad you're with us.
Hello. Thank you for having me, gentlemen. Nick, Sam, what was it? DDoc? Is that what it was? Right on. Well, cool. It's nice to meet you all. Thanks for having me on Rule the Galaxy podcast.
Awesome, man. Well, we're glad that you're with us. And anytime we get a chance to stop and talk Star Wars, it's always a good night. So, Rick, so glad that you get to be on here with us. And I would encourage anybody who's, if you consume this show just through audio, whether that's Spotify, whether that's wherever else we put our podcasts on audio, I should know the answer to that. But wherever we put those, I would suggest going to our YouTube page at Rule the Galaxy. Go check that out because I'm telling you, Rick has one of the coolest backdrops I've seen yet with some life-size rifles. What do you call that behind you? The Darth Maul head.
That is a 1-to-1 bust. Here, I'll bring you guys in for a little quick close-up. Here, I'll just bring the whole jam. So this is a 1-to-1 sculpture of Darth Maul. And I'll be molding that and painting it and offering it available. Pre-orders are available now, but I'm still dialing in the likeness. I've had some feedback, some kind, some not so kind.
As is per
you know how the fan base is. Yeah, that's all fine and good. I glean the good information out of even the hate. So
I like that,
but yeah, I'm dialing it in. People wanted to see a little more Ray Park in there from episode 1. I was just doing kind of a middle ground, peak, apex Maul after the halfening. and just kind of wanted to see him kind of in that prime anger, not quite animated, somewhere in between. So it was my safe. But the feedback is like, nah, we want episode 1 Ray Park, and I'm all about it. Ray's awesome. So I've got some better reference images of just Ray now. So I'm gonna dial it in. Let's do the thing.
Man, that's fantastic. And Rick, help our audience out. Just give us kind of, I know it's hard to condense this into a quick thing, but what do you do? Like if you're listening and you don't know Rick and you don't know who he is, just help us encapsulate, because when we hear you talking about, man, I'm putting together this one-to-one bust, some people may know what that is and other people don't. Just give us kind of an overview of what it is exactly that you do.
The age-old question, Rick Prince, what do you do? It's multifaceted, man. Part of it does involve the special effects side, the makeup side. Like Imbo here it's just cosplay. I say just cosplay, but just cosplay I was doing before it got its proper moniker and title, from way back in the 80s, 70s even, and so I took that and developed a career out of it. I wound up working for Universal Studios, Disney World, things like that, through a local puppet shop, building animatronics, creatures, and characters, to both that would perform live with humans inside and that were sometimes fully autonomous and sometimes radio controlled. And that took me forward to a career path that I've always wanted, which was the initial thing that got me into the whole business. Was I always wanted to be a movie monster. So I was successful enough in my special makeup effects career that Face Off hit me up on social media. Once social media came out, Facebook became a thing. All these things, I'm just in the back of the lab working and doing things, doing my best to promote and get people to be aware of what I do. And I have lived in Nashville, Tennessee for a while. Went to school here. My parents landed here. So I'm kind of in the Bible Belt, as it's referred to globally. So I'm doing the same thing that the high school I went to put me in in-school suspension for, that later invited me back for as a celebrity. The same thing the whole time, which is monsters, movies, monsters, special effects. I saw Star Wars in the theater. My dad took me to see it, the original. I was coherent a little bit more for Empire. That was the one that hooked me. And I'm one of the old heads that saw all the originals, watched the prequels, did not hate on Jar Jar. I was okay with it. I was a little old for it. But so I stay 1 foot in the Star Wars universe, which is where some of the Darth Maul and Star Wars things will come into play. Being an active member of the 501st. And my dominant career is a writer, producer, and director. So I make movies now that are available on Amazon Prime. If you guys have the ability, we'll pop up some links, wherever you guys put them if you want. Absolutely. To check those things out. But these are movies that we've created together as a big family unit, a big team. It takes sometimes hundreds of people, thousands, to be able to make a film, or things like we'll talk about, like Kenobi, just a show as an episodic thing. It's just as big as any film, especially now. So I'm right in the middle of that kind of world and universe, very intentionally, from being a kid with some cool parents who let me do what I did despite all the hiccups and challenges with school and people just not understanding it. It's way easier to understand after having been on a reality show about it. So I was on Face Off season 5 on the Sci-Fi Channel. They hit me up on social media, said, "Hey, want to be on this reality show?" Let's do the thing.
Come on.
So went out there, took a ride, met some fantastic artists. That's the win. Everybody that gets on the show, that's my opinion. Everybody wins because you're connected to this fantastic network of people. They're all super talented. You're all potentially equally talented because you're all competing against one another for the prize of the reality show. But whoever wins, there's like 13, 15 other people that don't. And there's plenty of careers and movies that we've all made together and separately in this spider web that we all connected through from Face Off. So a lot of people will know me from the reality show I was on, but it's just a cross section of me just doing the same thing I've always done my whole life.
Man, okay, so Rick, you have opened a box of about 500 questions that have just come to mind after that extensive overview, which was so helpful, I think, to just
My
give
life
people
in
context
five.
for. Yeah, I mean, so helpful to give the context. Before we do that, because I am so guilty of doing this when we have guests on the show. We're going to do it a couple times tonight. Where can people follow you, see your stuff, Twitter, Instagram, all the different stuff? Give it to us real quick.
I've made it easy, fortunately, through some fantastic people. There was another Rick Prince in Australia that had the handle. He gave it up to me on Instagram. Cheers, Rick Prince in Australia. He's like a drum tech. He's a fantastic musician himself. So find me on Instagram, Rick Prince. Nice and simple.
Easy. There you go.
Thanks, Rick. Most of the places you just search out online, type Rick Prince into Google, and all sorts of things now will pop up. I've climbed long and hard up this mountain, and we're doing well so far. We've got a good team going right now on active projects. So check me out. Biggest thing is probably Instagram. It's got all the fun stuff, all the visual elements. I like that the best. Also on, it'll trail over to Facebook, Twitter, Rick Prince _ on Twitter. I think I'm Malice in Mind on Facebook.
Okay. And Sam and DDoc jump in and ask questions here as we do this. But Rick, first question. I'm so glad you brought up the Instagram, because as I was searching your Instagram, going through this before we jumped on, not just Star Wars, like you were talking about, but you know, Demogorgons and all kinds of different stuff. I mean, just stunning, amazing stuff that you've put together and you've built. And you said something a second ago when you were setting up, here's kind of what I wanted to do. And you said, I think it was before your amazing Ricky Bobby Talladega Nights. Like, you remember that part in that movie where he's like, "Hey, remember we got kicked out of chemistry for playing with Matchbox cars?"
Yeah, I remember that thing.
Yeah. Before that, you said, "I always wanted to be a movie monster." Now, I don't know very many kids that grow up like with that one, with clarity like that could go, "Hey, I think I know exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life forever." I don't think I've figured that out yet. But what was it that made you go, "Hey, see that scary monster? I want to be that"?
I think Ash pretty much nails it in Alien. It's about the beauty, the symmetry. Giger's design was one of the heaviest influences on me. The Dark Crystal was also just giant in my life. All the throwbacks that people are like legacy titles, that was my childhood. Fortunately, I got to grow up in that golden age of people making movie magic in the fantasy category. So the monsters, though, just had a better design. Being real, it was like, man, if I could ever be that cool, come on. It comes with the face eating and the acid for blood. Okay, cool, whatever.
That's awesome.
Whatever, man. I'll be whatever. So you would put Dad's gloves on my feet and run around the house like a little gorilla or something, just anything. Big fan of Jane Goodall. So growing up with all this National Geographic exposure to real wildlife in a big and natural, raw way, and that you could have this intimate exposure right up there with it. I didn't really know what special effects were. We had to write letters to people like Dick Smith, who won an Academy Award for making some guy old. That wasn't really what I was trying to get to, but it was about the only source back then, until magazines like Fangoria and things made it more popular. I was like, oh, you can do it as a job? Excellent.
That's what I want to do.
That's it. You had me at hello.
Man, that's awesome.
And I love what you do, because it's funny, because I spent a year where I was working nights and I was home during the day. My kids would take naps and I would be on YouTube. And I got very much into Adam Savage's page on YouTube, where I'm like, oh my God, yeah. I've basically entered the world of YouTube, of watching people do what you do, because I think it's one of the coolest things. It's really the biggest behind the scenes talent for movies, in my opinion, that you just don't get to see. I mean, it's funny because everybody knows Adam Savage from Mythbusters, but it's like he was working at ILM doing, the stuff for the prequels for Star Wars. And yeah, through him, man, I've gotten really into just watching the stuff that you guys do. I mean, I'm in the trades. I work with my hands. I'd like to have a shop and start to try to do some of the stuff you guys do. But I mean, I think it's great because a lot of these prosthetics and stuff like that, I feel like, CGI was big and, we were really jumping into CGI. But now I feel like people are kind of going back to like, I want it to feel more real with these prosthetics. I mean, I relate it to like the orcs in Lord of the Rings. You look at the, original trilogy, I guess, of Lord of the Rings, and then you go to the Hobbits, and, one was more CGI, one was more real. And I don't know. I just love what you guys do. So it's exciting to talk to you and see the stuff that you do.
One was all CGI, DDoc,
Yep.
and looked like a poor video game, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. But yeah, I completely agree, Rick. And I'm curious from you. You've had the opportunity to work on so many different things. And seriously, anyone who's listening to this, go check out Rick's Instagram. I'm glad it doesn't show you how long you spent on somebody's page, because I was just sitting scrolling, going like, how do you come up with this? Like, this is amazing. Like, looking at all these things, and it just got me wondering, like, is there a project or a movie or something that you've done that, like, if you could say, man, of all the things that I've done, I'm most proud of this thing?
The first thing that really comes to mind would be the bucket list moment of finally achieving, like, the on-screen, go watch it, Leia All Saints Eve was the first film, writer, producer, director. I had a pair of angel investors that came into my life through their daughter being a fan of the show, and they were like, had a Hollywood moment. We were working on stuff together and doing grant work to go to the kids at high schools and stuff, going back to the high school I went to and showing them what makeup is and how you can have a career. But thanks to them, they invested in my first movie, which became a 3-picture deal. But the Tree Wolf in Leia All Saints Eve was the first time putting that suit on out in what turned out to be a giant field of poison ivy. But either way, that night, just on all fours as a quadruped, breathing and being the Tree Wolf, cameras rolling, there's, all the talent, all the lights, all the camera, all the action. That was it. That was what I had worked so hard to get to. So that would probably be the favorite moment so far of my career, even though some may be better in execution or something like that later on. That was was almost 10 years ago now. But it was that I finally did it. We did it, Ma. Call Mama. Hey,
Come on. That's awesome. And so here's I guess another question that comes out of even you going into some of your background, because there's clearly love for this, mix that in with Star Wars. There's so much, visual practical effects, especially in the original trilogy. Tell us about your love though for Darth Maul, because I think I thought it was interesting you setting up going, man, you know what? Like I'm a child of the original trilogy, and yet there's this character that I not just, but I've made busts of now, and yeah, see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's amazing. Tell us about, I guess, maybe introduction of Maul all the way to, hey, I think I want to be Darth Maul.
I think part of it was having grown up with the original trilogy. To me, the thing that hooked, I'll start with the thing that hooked me, and then you'll be like, how did he get to Darth Maul? Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. The power that little green puppet with a team of people who I got to have hands-on with just recently in a documentary thing. This was fantastic. But that hooked me into being a kid. Anybody could use the Force. This is well before any midichlorians or any of that kind of conversation came about. So we had the original trilogy. Fantastic. Loved it. Ate it up as a kid. We were lightsaber fighting, my whole life. Then, and we're in high school. What? They're doing more Star Wars. What? Oh, what? Oh, who is this guy? And you see the design, and it's just imposing when you first see him. And then when you watch the film, right up until the tragic moment, there is this just fierce presence. I mean, Ray Park just brought that character to life with such a stoic, ominous performance. And just the back and forth scene with the ray shields, all that kind of thing just really brought it to life. And then I was like, my boy. All right, so he's done. Fine. All right, it happens. It's tragic. That's the big event in this film. Cool. And I went on to just follow on and loved Revenge of the Sith, all this kind of stuff. But we keep going with Star Wars and we keep going. Well, animated series, fantastic. What? Why are the opening titles red on this particular episode? What? Oh my God. Oh, it was if they had reaction videos at that point,
Right.
You'd have had me just crawling all around the walls, because what a brilliant rebirth through Filoni and the team in Clone Wars, with what was left of Darth Maul by hate and will and that kind of thing alone, has managed to reassemble himself in this force-powered lower body. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Then watching him evolve, seeing some sideshow figures of how Mother Townsend was able to change and use droid parts and give him these like super wicked, the digigrade legs. That's one of my favorites, and I did a cosplay of that way back. I tried to get certified with the 501st, but I did the sideshow figure instead of the cartoon, and you have to be canon, and I didn't do that right. Whoops. So that you can kind of see. I'll cut it there, but it continues after that. My kind of obsession with that character, it grew and became what it is through Clone Wars. I loved Ray Park in episode 1, fantastic, but I was like, Rebels as well, same thing. I bring on some Rebels. I hear you, Aladdin. I hear everybody hating.
Space Aladdin.
I see it. Bring it. All right. We're gonna warm up the machine and get going. And okay. And then when you get to some of those Maul sequences later on, old Maul, elder, still wicked, way more crafty, way more deceitful, and with what he does with the Inquisitors, just man, OP. Right. That cat is strong by that time.
Right. I want to see the Rick Prince reaction video to the end of season 7 of Clone Wars when Darth Maul gets his hallway scene. That's what I really want to see, because I'm sure you were losing.
All of it. Talking. If you really pay attention with the Maul Ahsoka fight, the whole sequence, the conversation prior to the fight is where it's really at, because you have this full threaded continuity across all of the whole timeline. Everything is going on at once, and you have this moment of conversation between them, like, you know what, Maul knows if he had gotten to that fucking kid. Seriously, that's the
it's so
difference.
true.
In his mind, there's so many things that I was robbed of all this.
I almost ran him over.
Get over.
Yeah.
It's well, you gotta feel it. You gotta know that if you follow the character through the entirety of the timeline, which is why I'm a fan of prequels, sequels, trilogy, all of the stuff. There are things to like and love about all the parts and pieces of it. It's just, is that as much love you have for that thing as the other, all the way up through Book of Boba Fett, all the new stuff, Kenobi that's on right now. I mean, you guys it's in your namesake, so you guys have got to love it just as much as I do. I'm meeting you all for the first time, so I'm curious to see how you all think of Maul.
Totally. Well, guys, please jump in. I feel like I've been talking a lot too as we do this, but Sam, I can see you getting ready to talk.
Oh, well, I should leave with the last remark, and then I probably got to dip out of here. I was going to jump in with I actually just started my Rebels rewatch, so I couldn't agree more. I loved, how old were we, Nick, when Phantom Menace came out? 7?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So like at that point, you're just like, it's blowing all sorts of like doors up. But again, he kind of just comes and goes, and you're like, well, that's great. But yeah, after, we've had a lot of time over the last few years just rewatching like Clone Wars and Rebels and being like, wow, this is, I have people in my life that say, I don't even care because he came back. and I'm like, they did so much with him that was so good that they had a lot of depth to him, and I think his arc is just crazy. And even when he comes down to the end, just how he is just so I guess passionate is probably the best word I'd use for a character. He's so like
I think
passionate.
that is
his beliefs.
His biggest issue, I think, is he's so and it just blinds him to so many things, that he stumbles himself, and that's his own blinders cause it. But I wrestled with the same thing on the second Obi-Wan fight. I was like, all right, wait. All right. Okay.
I see what you're saying.
All right. You know what? Okay. It takes a minute. If you just leave it at your first impression, maybe the lack of expectation, that's robbing yourself of really letting it soak in to you feeling it as the story. And a lot of people stop and they want to immediately roll with that. And then sometimes that's now your public voice was right when you watched it, and you watched it 4 or 5 times, and now you actually like it, but now that was your opinion. So
right. Sam, I know you got to go love on that baby, dude. Thank you for jumping on and being here, and looking forward to have you on some more shows. We'll see you, man.
Yeah,
Nice
congrats
to meet you,
on the
Rick.
kid. Nice to meet you.
Thank
Sam.
you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Rick, I'm stuck on this Darth Maul thing because so one of my favorite things about the character, and it's actually something that I wanted to talk about tonight when we get to Kenobi, but I figured if we're already talking about it, let's talk about it. I love that at the beginning of the prequels, for everything people say the prequels were, we had a character that they brought in that maybe had 3 lines of dialogue the whole movie, right? Like it literally like, yes, master, at last we'll reveal ourselves to the Jedi, at last we'll have revenge. I think that's about it. I don't think there's any more, but we created a true villain that like you didn't really even need to talk. It was kind of like at least what I would imagine, Vader back in the original A New Hope, right? For the very first time. He only has about 4 or 5 minutes of screen time in the whole movie, but you left going, who is that? Why is he so bad? What's going on? I want more of this character. And you had this character that later you'd get all the depth, right? With Rebels, Clone Wars, you'd see this tortured, broken, I was ripped from my family. You'd get, what is it? Darth Plagueis, the novelization that, walks through him being taken from Dathomir, all this kind of stuff. But like, you didn't need that at the beginning to make him an awesome villain, just from the look, the feel, the intensity, exactly what you're talking about. And to me, I would argue that maybe that's what we're missing in Star Wars moving forward, is this feeling of, well, we need a really complex bad guy, where I'm like, no, we just need a bad guy. And we need a bad guy that is just kind of a badass, like for no other word, just, somebody that kind of goes after it. And I enjoyed what we do this sometimes where we'll, jump between sequels, prequels stuff. My biggest push on the sequels was I felt like there wasn't really a bad guy that felt scary, or somebody that was like, they tried, I think, a couple times, but nothing like what we saw from Maul coming out the gate, where you're like, I would mess with that guy. That guy haunts my dreams, man. I don't want anything to do, with that guy. So I agree. Of all the characters that you could embody, way to go picking. You said you wanted to be a movie monster. You picked a pretty good movie monster to come out the gates on.
Yeah, he's definitely great on the list.
Yeah. DDoc, what about you and Maul? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, you can see my little centerpiece Lego that I have behind me of his face there. I mean, I got that set, and you could choose between Vader, Kylo Ren, or Maul, and immediately I'm just like, all right, I'm doing Maul. I mean, they give you the option, and I just need to see that face, because I felt like Lego did a great job with just that menacing look on this little portrait series that they've been doing. And yeah, I don't know. On top of Maul being so, number one, intimidating, 2, bit mysterious, he had the double lightsaber too. So like, when you're a kid and you see him spark up that double lightsaber, and you're just like, there it is.
On. Okay, so tell us about that.
Nice and hefty.
That
I think
looks like it's heavy, actually. That
it's
looks like it's
the Disney
real.
official. You can pop both. They have both separate different length blades. The long blades I can't use together in any indoor environment because they're so long. So they have shorter blades, but I actually had to get somebody on eBay to send me that from Disneyland out in California. I was going to touch on, both of you guys I think are hitting on points that are part of what I think the people want to hear me talk about maybe in a YouTube series of reviewing things. But you're touching on something that I feel also crosses right over to things like Jaws. Boba Fett. Less is more.
Less is more.
You go too far and you know too much. You one of those you don't have to say anything. And talking specifically with Maul, I think John Williams said it all, didn't he? With Duel of the Fates.
Come on.
Wow. You were so captivated by the energy and the feeling of the music, the effort they put into the choreography between Ewan McGregor, Ray Park, just seeing the two of them throw down. Then you have Liam Neeson's size and stature over the two of those guys who are small by comparison. It's just something you had. It kind of was your wildest dream for a good amount of time on screen with a bad guy who had to say nothing.
Yeah,
it
was like the trifecta.
You know why I'm here.
Yeah.
You know why I'm here. It was brilliantly executed all across the board. It still stands up today. It's a scene I rewatch all the time. If Disney's looking at my queue, they'll see what I watch and what I don't rewatch. They'll see the sections of the things that I don't rewatch that I will watch because I think those scenes and sections are cool. But I think that's a big part of what DDoc was talking about also with Vader. It's the same thing, and it's the same thing with Boba Fett. Boba Fett's just
mysterious, and it makes you go, man, I want to know more about what's going on with. That's why they become such beloved
with
characters.
The coolest costume in the background. Him and IG-88. I was like, what? So what it was oh man, it was on N64, whatever it was with Dash Rendar.
Oh, Shadows of the Empire.
Shadows of the Empire. Yeah, man. That was one of my favorites because of the threat of the IG-88 level.
That game was hard as crap.
It was. I love that character. He's one of my favorite of the little figures that we had back in the day.
I just recently restarted playing that game, and I suck at beating him. He is so hard in that freaking game. The
board itself is. I love that. I love Solo partially because of some of the train movement on the level leading to the big fight with him. So the Star Wars is deep with this one. It's just been my thing, and I've been okay with that. And people being like, "Are you ever gonna not play Star Wars, dude?"
Nope.
Coming up on 50 strong. It's like, nah, man, I got a little salt and pepper here now. I can rock some of these different characters. You just wait. You talk about another silent guy. Ooh, I want to see Embo, baby.
Wow.
Come on. You talk about a guy who doesn't say much and is strong because of it. In Clone Wars, man, that's Embo.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Tussled with old Anakin and skated away.
Yeah, no problem. You're right. So you're talking about, hey, I continue to, don the Maul garb and dress up as him. You're a part of the 501st. So my first introduction, I'd seen 501st online, but when we went to the ICCC, I talked to the guy who created the speeder bikes, and had the giant ATST that was
ATST.
up. He was also a member of it. He started just giving me some insight into what it takes to be certified in the 501st, and it's intense.
It is. They have their whole costume guide for the volumetric list of different characters that you can choose from, and there's plenty that are achievable. A soft Empire general officer, something like that is doable. It's accessible, and you can sit down in it comfortably.
True.
So there's a lot of things to look for when you're choosing your own adventure in costuming. But they have a full guide, and it is very specific. I wanted to come in because of my ability and skill set, and try to go for the level 3 certification, which is the highest. You have to do all of the most tedious steps. But I'm fortunate to have access to a brilliant costume designer that did my full linen Darth Maul fabric work. We worked together to sort out how that was supposed to be made. So I did all the homework and took all the pictures and patterns over to her, and we worked together off of my measurements to get that developed. But they'll say no if it's wrong. I did so much work on that Clone Wars Maul, and as impressive as it may have been, it was just wrong, and they were like, reject it. But they told me
why did they reject
it?
They
were like, it was wrong. Like, you did the sideshow collectible full scale, fantastic, but that's like the best of all Maul. That he never appears that way fully. Like the big horns, by the time Mother Talzin changes him, his horns come down before he gets the cool legs. So it had all of the best parts on him in their like rendition of that particular character. It's kind of like what I did with Maul. I was like, I just want to do Maul in my mind, and so they just put all the best parts on. But that's not what's in the show. So there's a very hard line on canon or non-canon, and for those listening, that is a line of delineation between what appears in the on-screen after the reset. If it's not in these particular titles, the films, the cartoons that are included, and now some of the comics that are included, it's not right, in quotes, according to the on-screen database or whatever. So if it's wrong, it's wrong. And if it's done out of parts and pieces that are subpar, you're representing Star Wars out to the masses in a big way, and you're doing, it's bad guys doing good. So if you heard him and the pitch, we're going out there and representing Star Wars and have their approval. And the reason that we have this, people in their costumes from the 501st in Kenobi is because of the level of standard they try to hold, so that it looks like it's from Star Wars. If you don't hold that standard, it doesn't look like it's from Star Wars. Right. And that's what it's all about, is just trying to make it as close to the movies or whatever as we can. And so I'm fine with that. It's a tough line, but not if you understand and you read and do your homework. Just take your time, do it right. If they say something's off, work with them. You got a point of contact. It's just people. So just ask them, and you can do that in advance. Hey, I'm working with these things. I just want to make sure if something's not in the CRL, just ask somebody. I had a great contact and onboarding, because I'm a new member of the 501st. I've only been part of it for like a year. But I've been doing it because we go to the same events for charity work. I just hadn't officially joined up. And the reason is because I got shut down. I was like, I gotta start again. Okay, cool. But I just went to CRL, got my episode 1 Maul, and did it first try, certified level 3.
Wow, come on. That's awesome.
And I had a great onboarding team that just helped me with how to submit and who to talk to. It was easy.
It's awesome. DDoc.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I remember watching the behind the scenes of Mandalorian season 1, and it's like 501st is something that I haven't been as familiar, because I haven't gone to this is the extended world of Star Wars is a bit newer to me over the last couple years. Really, it's like I know I've always been a fan of it, but I'm just like, oh my God, there's this whole world out there of fans enthralled in it. And I was watching that Mandalorian behind the scenes, and they were talking about the end of season 1, and this is one of the reasons why I think Filoni is so connected to the fan base and why I love him is, they wanted more stormtroopers for that final scene of season 1, and Filoni's just like, let's call up the 501st. Like, those guys will be ready to go. Like, they got screen accurate suits, they'll be fine. Like, with they have a high standard, they'll be great. And yeah, they were showing all the 501st guys who came in to film that scene when Mando was in the bunker, and you had all the stormtroopers out there. And I just thought that was one of the coolest things, just to, I don't know, it just seemed like it, to see the fans and the people who are really, you're talking about that high standard being in the show and like being able to do that. I just thought it was so freaking cool.
I would
Yeah,
love
what a
to
dream
be
come
any
true.
part of that universe. Totally. Even if your face is covered, any bucket, any side character, sweat. I've got a cool suit. Put me in the hottest thing that's uncomfortable, nobody wants to do. Sign me up. I love creature performing. I get it. I'd love to do it. Any of it. You know, you need a background mall at,
Yeah.
whatever. Any of that
Need a
kind of
couple
stuff.
malls running around.
But I do have my sights set on the franchise in a directing capacity. Try to get, there's so many episodes, there's different directors of all types. It's something that I've grown to love my entire life. And I've got some ideas I think would be very marketable to the public because of how much I love it. And I know that's what I'm trying to deliver. And I hear all the complaints, positive, negative. I hear all the fan base. I hear you. And let's try something.
Come on. Why not?
Yeah.
And Rick, super cool. Even just getting to hear some of your story of how you got into this and even aspirations of, man, I think there's so many people that wouldn't even name that, right? Or have the courage to go, hey, you know what? I want to direct something someday and do that. So from Rule of the Galaxy standpoint, man, we're going to be cheering you on just about everything we can, man, to see you get there and do that. Last question before we get to some news, unless DDoc, you got something. We ask everybody we have on this show a similar question. It came out of, we asked one guest one time, what's your favorite lightsaber handle? And somebody made a off-color comment about, well, it better not be Dooku's. I think that's how it happened, DDoc, if I remember correctly. Anyway, It's evolved into this. We ask every single person that's on the show now, what's your favorite lightsaber hilt and why? I'm assuming I know what yours is, but I could be wrong.
I was going to say Asajj Ventress or Dooku.
I couldn't be more wrong. I thought
I don't have
Darth
them
Maul.
in my collection yet, but I will.
So explain your rationale behind those two, because we have some regular co-hosts that would be not seething, but whatever the opposite of that is, salivating at your that you like Count Dooku's lightsaber.
Bring it. That's fine, because it's just an open dialogue. It's not a challenge. I respect anybody's opinion. They can like what they like. I get to like what I like. I don't need you to like what I like, and I don't think you probably need me to like what you like. So everything should be cool, man.
Oh, salivating in a good way.
Oops,
sorry, in a way of finally somebody else that likes Count Dooku's lightsaber.
Totally. I just preface it with all that. Anybody that wants to engage in the comments or any of that kind of thing, feel free. It's you're not gonna have Rick Prince coming down on you in the comments. That's not how I get down. Because I love it. I think everybody's got a valid point and different perspectives. So I like stylistically the approach. It's a unique. I like things that are unique just in general. I try to have a car that's a limited edition, some that you just don't see very many of them. That's the car I end up gravitating toward. I like the rare, the unique, the special, something, the odd, the scarred, the torn. I like something. It can be fine, but give me your birthmark all across your whole face, man. I love that. Any of those kind of things. It makes variety. It's the spice of life, right? That kind of thing. I also, there's something about the way that Dooku uses it, if you know full lore. Christopher Lee, I mean, come on. And then Asajj Ventress as well. They're just stylistically, it's just a unique way to approach it. I don't know that I would be good with it in a fight. There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Come on, man.
Come on.
And
just,
I posed them
cool.
just like in that way, how
it is very
got
elegant.
It out,
It is an elegant weapon for a more civilized time.
There you go. There it is.
So, and it wouldn't be the only thing in my collection, because trying to use it, my neighbor commented the other day, it's like, I saw you out there with your lightsabers. The other,
you did, and don't come over here or you'll.
Yeah. I was charging the batteries in my daughter's custom one that she made.
Wow.
We took to ICCC, and the batteries wind up going down. So I was just bringing it back up to charge. I took it outside to make sure it was working. And so he caught me being awesome. Me, and everything's good. But I don't know that I would be able to play with an Asajj Ventress or a Dooku saber the same way. And so I understand the critique. But it's also, if you think about it, in the Star Wars, I just cut everything in half because I don't need the leverage.
Yeah.
if I am fighting another lightsaber, which is probably going to be rare for me on either side, I probably don't have that kind of fight very often. It's an energy weapon that shouldn't take much. Poke you with, just you're done.
Right.
So I don't know. I can see it in world. I wouldn't pick it to use. Out of world for my collection, it's one of the ones it's I think number 2 on my list.
Wow. I like it, Rick. I think that's a good, and I love this. Everybody's got a different answer when they come in with it. And I love the passion of the Star Wars fan base to be able to jump behind and go like, no, but here's why, like, and here's why I would do this and why I think it's cool. So, hey, couple news things that I think could be worth hitting. And then I do want to talk for a second. We did a whole episode last week on Kenobi, but it's been about a week since the season finale came out.
And had to let it
before the
soak
show.
in.
Yeah, I'm the guy that I'll get a week out and be like, hey, why did they do that? Like, and be thinking through it. So I'd be curious what came up. But a couple news things. And Joe, our normal host, sent me some of these links. I got to give him credit for it, to some good stuff. But there was an article that came out this last week. It was on Twitter as well, too, about potential rumors of Millie Bobby Brown potentially entering the Star Wars universe in some capacity because, and they quoted in the article saying, because of how well she plays with 10 to 30-year-olds in the market right now, that Disney's eyeing her for that. There were no specifics about what role, but it got me thinking. Clearly, Rick, you watch Stranger Things. DDoc, I know you watch Stranger Things. Phenomenal actress. If you could pick her to play somebody in Star Wars or a type of character, right? So could be somebody that exists in Legends, could be somebody out there. What role would you hope she would play in light of watching what she's done in Stranger Things and kind of throughout?
DDoc, you going first? What's up?
Man, I was going to say, I mean, I could see her being an excellent, like, younger Leia, but then I don't know. This Kenobi show kind of gets us pretty close to where Leia was, and Millie's getting a little older. So, man, I'm not totally sure. I mean, if you put a lightsaber in her hand, I'm freaking fine with it, because I think L11 is like one of the coolest characters from a show I've ever seen. So, I mean, I'd be happy with her in any kind of role in Star Wars. I mean, I'd love it. I saw that, and I saw that there was mutual interest there as well, that she had said she wanted to be in Star Wars at one point, which I think is freaking awesome. So, if I'm not mistaken about that, but I'll take her in anything Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah, that from my point of view, from a certain point of view, she's been on the list from day one. I know it's like every time there's a new thing or a new reason to talk about it, she comes up again. I think her and one of the other cast members also did some cosplay. It's like, oh yeah, how are you gonna be? And her likeness, her similarity, to be able to take over the role as Princess Leia. I think the new actress did a brilliant job. Very heartwarming, despite all of the little chase, complaints or whatever. That's you really grew to love that character by the end once we get to talk about Kenobi. I think Millie Bobby Brown could come in more strong in a new standalone role that I think if you're onto the Taika Waititi conversations, onto the new talk about what to do with some of the mess from the sequel trilogy, and it's just disconnection from the storyline was really the problem. I think she would be stronger as a new, unique character. Let her be her own brand. Don't let her fill the shoes of a legacy character. I think that opportunity, that window has closed now. Timeline, she just grew, she aged out of it. And the time that you're talking about is not necessarily, we didn't even expect this little brief time with the young Leia. The older Leia is not going to have a lightsaber because she doesn't have that yet, unless you're going to continue to break canon.
Which we've been known to do.
It was, fine. You got some, portals and time travel gadgets that are into the universe now, thanks to Rebels. So who knows? I just think she'd be stronger cast in a unique role. I think she, as an actress, would probably be more happy with that. Happy with any role in Star Wars, like O'Shea or anybody that's just coming like me, any role, whatever.
Anybody.
But she's such a powerful young actress that give her something to make her own and let everybody love that and not have to compare it. I think it would work out better for the franchise and for her.
Yeah, I agree. And the only caveat I would add to that would be, I would love to see her in a role that's not Jedi related, which I can't believe I'm saying it, but looking at what she does in Stranger Things, she's basically the Jedi of Stranger Things, right? Like she can pick stuff up and crush demogorgons and all kinds of stuff. And what I would love to see is more of, like, again, who cares what I want, but what I would love to see almost like what we saw in Solo with Kira, right? Where, kind of this, bad, not bad, but just like this tough female character that can hold her own, and kind of run and do something that's different than maybe, a mutant project, whatever she is in Stranger Things. I've not watched season 4 yet, so I got to watch that and do that. But Rick, you brought up the new Taika Waititi. I say that right?
Correct.
Yeah, his I feel like I need to pat myself
Taika
on the back whenever I say his name, because I don't do it very well. But there was more news that came out this week about that they're still writing the script. We are still years away from seeing this movie from what I can tell.
Write it first, give release dates second.
Completely agree. Here's
I'm
the
not
question.
I'm not telling the mouse what to do. Whatever, yes sir, yes ma'am, I'll do whatever you need.
Sing whatever song you want.
You just get a better product doing it that way, and I'm glad he's hopefully towing that line. That's what it seems.
Absolutely. Like. So it raised a question for me, thinking about, okay, so we're exiting the Skywalker series in some capacity, and it just got me thinking, I don't know if you've kept up with High Republic at all. It's basically Jedi versus space pirates. And personally, for myself, while there's some really great writing that's been done in it, I've had a hard time connecting because it doesn't feel equal. Like Jedi versus space pirates in my mind should just be like, yeah, no brainer. Like the Jedi beat the space pirates. Like that's how we do it. Jedi versus Sith feels a little bit more stacked. And so I guess the question would be, would we want a movie that doesn't involve Jedi versus Sith or Rebellion versus Empire, or like I know people are saying, well, we want to move out of the Skywalker saga and go do that. That feels like a tall order from everything that we've seen up to this point, including they talked about it last week on the show. Even the sequel trilogy went back to exactly what we had done before of, well, here's Empire 2.0. Does the question make sense what I'm trying to say? Like how do you do one that doesn't involve Jedi versus Sith and make it awesome?
Well, Disney, Dave, John.
Yeah.
I'm giving my pitch. Space Pirates is fine. What kind of Jedi are OP'd as normal people, but they got caught in a ray shield in a hallway. You put them up against the droideka with the battle shields. What do you do when you're running? You could take things like the Knights of Ren if you wanted to fold in some of the sequel trilogy. There are other bladed versions of weapons. There's Beskar from Book of Boba Fett. There are things in the galaxy, in the Star Wars universe, that you can use and outfit yourself to deal with a Jedi. You could go Cad Bane style and hold your own. You're not getting force choked. You can fly around. You can best, quite a few. He stacked up quite a few. And then also tune your droid. Come with a Grievous. What's left? I know it was fire, but there's probably a lot of that droid left. Let me put one of these general droids commanding unit in what's left of Grievous's body and turn him back on. You know what I mean?
I like where your head's at.
Just a droid by itself, even if you're a Jedi and you got to be a master Jedi against a human frail body, that's a bad day for most anybody.
Right.
It takes a Skywalker level, and those were even, they've developed droids beyond that. So,
right.
There's a way that you could go, and there's a couple of crafty pirates out there in the Star Wars universe who might have something to say about
Yeah.
how you treat the
That's
Jedi.
pretty good. That's pretty good. The question came about, I was thinking about, this desire to do, a new movie. And there's a lot of reasons why people say Solo kind of flopped. I don't get it, but
bad timing.
Again,
I think that's just bad timing. I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, "Oh, sequel trilogy. Oh, another one. I don't know." I just think it was so close to the other release date, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I go back. I go right back to Solo before I go back to any of those.
Yeah, I agree.
And I only go back to scenes on those. And there's some scenes that come on, I'm like, no, I cannot. It's well shot. I try to say nice things. It's well shot. It's well produced. There's so many people that put so many talented hours of labor and love into it. Just as far as my continuity in the storyline, viewer hope and expectation, it did not meet those. Good job, though.
Right. Yeah. DDoc, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what Rick was saying when he was saying if it takes a couple years, fine, basically, because I mean, right at first and announce it after, I think is what you said, right, Rick? Pretty
That's
much
what
it's like
seems like they're doing sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
announcing
because,
full things. What was the Squadron, which I kind of
Rogue
was looking
Squadron.
forward to. Yeah. That got shelved now. I was like, well, I kind of would have liked to seen a pilot. I think that could have been cool, especially with the success of Top Gun crushing it.
For real.
I haven't seen it yet because I'm going to see it in IMAX and I've been busy. I may have to catch the recycle. If I miss it, I'm going to wait and see it in IMAX.
Right.
But yeah, I think with the success of that $1 billion mark, I think maybe some pilot movie with some stuff might bring in a few bucks. I don't know. I'm not challenging the thought process, but it seems like there have been things that haven't worked, and that is common among them, is saying we're going to do it by this date, and it puts a strain on everything that doesn't need to be there on a production side.
Yeah, and
everybody's
I feel
rushing.
Exactly. I feel like you can tell that Taika is in the driver's seat as far as it goes with the quotes that came out this week, just because he's just like, celebration to just this celebration that just passed. I mean, Kathleen was just like, Taika's movie is up next. We're looking at 2023 for it. And it's like, holy crap, that's next year, and Taika's like, I'm still writing the story, because he's part of Mandalorian, and he's part of that group that loves Star Wars and cares deeply about it, and I think he does too. And I really enjoy his directing style. I think he's funny. I think he does a good job of mixing humor into very serious bits as well. So
I agree.
I really think that for some reason, though, I can't help but to picture his aesthetic of directing Star Wars being that original trilogy, 70s style, costumes. I don't know why I just picture that aesthetic more for his directing, but it doesn't have to. Has he been on the record saying we need to move along from the Skywalker where it can be in a certain time period, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with everything that's going on with these big storylines. He can just write his own.
He said something in that vein where, having new stories that involve new characters is totally fine. Whether he's saying he's going to do that or not, I'm not sure. But I know that was part of the conversation that I read on whichever article was that included something along those lines. But it wasn't ready. So
he said we're throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. I think that was the extent of what I read.
Yeah, and creatively you should. It's one of those things. I think that he has the good fortune of popularity, like a A-list actor might, to just be able to not impose his will, but just respectfully, I'm working on it and as quickly as I can to deliver the quality of product that has you wanting me so badly. I have to do it. I have to do it my way and allow me that artistic freedom. And I think that's the probably the behind the scenes conversation that gets us these snippets and quotes that says, yeah, we're ready. And then maybe we're going to work on that a little bit.
Right.
Because the burden is to just try to get your story right. And then the script story versus the movie version that are sometimes drastically different from page to screen because of how involved the process of movie making is. So you want to be sure to make make sure that everybody is literally on the right page first, and that's where the story is. So props to him for wanting to focus on the story. I don't care about any of the other gossip or any of the other things behind there. I'm not beholden to, you got to give it to me now. Give it to me when you think it's ready and it's done and you're proud of it.
That's it.
Show it
I
to
like
me
that,
then.
Rick. I like that, Rick, which I think leads us into maybe the last point. We've been going for a while and we want to be respectful of your time, Rick, but just thinking about, it's been a week, almost a week. Tomorrow will be a week since we got the season finale of Kenobi. I really do. Sometimes it takes about a week for me to process and go, okay, wait a minute. Here's the things that I love, the things that stand out to me as like, way to go, Disney. That was fantastic. And it takes about a week for things to surface to go, hang on a second. I don't know if that makes sense, or did we need that, or what do we see? And I didn't get an opportunity to be a part of the Kenobi show that we did last week. But I would say overall, I give the whole series a B+, A-, without even blinking or flinching. It was, prequel 12-year-old Nick was doing backflips the whole time that it was happening because Ewan McGregor was back and it was amazing. But I would be curious from you guys. It's been a week removed. Has your thoughts changed from when you first started to now? Have they stayed the same? Have they intensified? And I will give one other caveat. I just started the Brotherhood book that just was released kind of in congruency with this. And first of all, if you're listening to this and you are contemplating Star Wars books, go pick this one up. It is really, really good. And if anything, it took me from a B+ to an A- on this show because you're getting the inner workings of what's going on in Obi-Wan's mind right after the Battle of Geonosis. And it is so freaking awesome to be back in that world and doing that. But enough of me talking. I'm curious from you guys. Has your thoughts changed? Were there things that stuck out to you more as, man, that was awesome? Or, hey, why did we do this?
I'll let you go, Rick, if you have your thoughts ready on it.
Right on. I think it is, if you're going to give it a grading point on a A to F scale, is that for the shows? Is that across the entirety of all Star Wars? There's a lot of grading scale adjustment that you could hold as your criteria. But I think the greater point that I would want to make sure everybody drafts from this is it is about your exposure to the entirety of the story. Mm-hmm. Because if you haven't seen the rest of the movies, your grade for just Obi-Wan might not be very good. Sure. If you've seen them all, it might also not be very good. It's all how you took the entirety of the whole story that you've seen to that point. I think I watch most of them, so I get to avoid any spoilers. I watch them as they broadcast at night because I'm working usually till 2 or 3 in the morning. So, hey, stop, wrap everything up just before 2, put on the television, the sound system out here, and watch whatever the new Star Wars show is that week. And sometimes Marvel, depending on how relevant or how risky the spoiler risk is. Right. And then I'll rewatch with my family, later that day or the next day, whenever it's more convenient. But I don't have to risk seeing anything in my social media work that I have to do now. Because spoilers are what they are, and people live for that to some degree. The ones that do. But
we know somebody like that, don't we, DDoc? I think
yes,
he's a regular co-host on this show.
It's all good. I mean, I try to avoid that. And there's ways that you can have your whole spoiler show, but just don't put it right there in the page, the clip, the thumbnail, whatever it is, just to try to be respectful of the people who are just trying to avoid it doing other things. It's, we're just trying to look around all of that. So I get this multiple viewings while they come out every week. Then I had the good opportunity of a friend of mine who had just recently contracted COVID after the viewing. So we dodged a bullet and got a chance to hang out together and watch the final episode together. And this is my lifelong buddy. He had all the figures. He's got a bunch of brothers, Mr. Danny Lamore. And we got a chance to hang out together and watch the show. And, you're in the presence of your friend and you got this epic tale that we've done the same thing with Clone Wars. We get together, we watch these things as adults. It's, you know, it's my best friend from back in the day, my Star Wars buddy.
Right.
So, you know, we're both like you know, watching the final episode because we have the connectivity that some people may or may not have, specifically our affinity for the Obi-Wan character and or the Anakin character. Like he's all about some Obi-Wan, I'm all about some Anakin, for different reasons. And I love Obi-Wan and he loves Anakin. It's, you know, we love Star Wars. Every time we say something, Star Wars, 3 exclamation points, all caps. So a week later, having all these, like, I've now watched each episode 3 times a week later. So
Yeah.
it sits well. It's one of the better executed shows. I do have parts that I prefer, things that I may have done differently in a directing style or might want to see differently as a fan. But there's some great emotional moments there. I love the loader bot. You know, I love the little princess being a little fucking princess, man. And then being a little princess and then finally being Princess Leia. And being like, all right, that's in my heart now.
Right.
But the bigger struggle during the fight, I think that was, man, and I've seen a version of that with Ahsoka and Anakin in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, well, they're going to do it live action. But I was like, oh, no. It's not just, oh, they're going to do it live action like you might think about The Lion King or something. This is just, I had to go back. I rewatched it with like the volume all the way up because just, I could close my eyes and listen to that scene and be brought to tears. I'm almost to that now because of the tragedy between those two friends. If you've ever had a friend, if you've ever had a falling out, if you've ever lost somebody, if you've ever lost yourself, right, all of that is in that scene's context. It's all there. The changing in the eye color, the rasp, the change from who's talking and which voice and all that. It's all there. And that's just in one episode. So, you know, it's one of those things, man. You know, you'll get that. Check them, the reel.
Wow,
you know,
come on.
It's if you know the characters and you love those characters, right, you'll love stories about them. And you hope that they're taken care of and with pride and diligence to the story that you feel, but that's someone else's story. And I think we should all do well to remember that. And I think that's part of what Dave Filoni and that team does best is they remember whose story it is. And they're trying to continue to tell that story because that's the one we all loved. We could all tell great stories now that we've seen Star Wars, you know, but sure. You know, let's keep trying to tell that story. And it's multifaceted. There's plenty more than just the Skywalker saga. Sure.
DDoc, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, as I've let it settle in, I mean, there's bits and pieces I might not like, but I mean, I personally like, just as Rick was saying, it's like, you know, my wife laughs at me, but she knows my love for Star Wars totally supports it. And it's like, you know, when that was coming on that night, in my mind, I'm just like, I'm going to be sitting here crying in this freaking finale here. And, to me, when a show gives you that emotion, I know that it hits. And I think I had tears in my eyes 3 separate times in that finale, probably. I thought Ewan's acting was at like infinity levels when he was basically crying, looking at Anakin, and when he said, "I'm sorry." Yeah, I was just like, "Oh my God!" And you know, to me, this just solidified even more Anakin. Just looking at Darth Vader and being like, "Holy shit, that is Anakin in there," you know, because you do see that, you know, pretty face of Hayden Christensen. You're just like, how could he become this? You know, like all the way up until, you know, when you pull the helmet off and you see what he's become. But I mean, I just thought one of the most brilliant parts was just hearing that transition of Hayden's voice and Darth Vader mixing together and how choppy it was at certain points. I mean, I thought that was the best thing they did.
Hayden, James Earl Jones, the distortion, the not distortion.
Yes.
You know, it was all those things. I think one of the biggest parts, and I haven't heard, and this is part of why people have asked for me, and I'm going to be like, all right, I'm going to go through and do my Kenobi series review. I'll just start there. Why not? The thing that I pulled out of that was that the story that we always felt was a lie, and maybe so did Luke. It wasn't a lie. That's straight from his father's mouth.
Yeah.
I killed Anakin Skywalker.
He betrayed and murdered your father.
Yeah, and as much as he's given Obi-Wan his closure that Obi-Wan desperately needs, and vice versa, they're getting what they need from each other. Anakin, who was, Darth Vader's not going to let that stand. But he's able to get through enough to give his friend what he needed too. So they do have their final moment there before their grand finale moment when he's not facing Anakin anymore. He's dealing with Darth Vader at that point. But I think that moment, what I heard was the echo from a tent on Tatooine. It was like, nah, man, Darth Vader killed your dad, man.
Yeah, I think you're right on. I think, yes, me. I think that scene, I've gone back and watched that a couple times now. That will be, I think that will live on as one of the greater Star Wars scenes. It was beautiful if you didn't have context. And then with the context of prequels, original trilogy, and sequels, seeing that the acting was so superb, the visuals were stunning. And I thought the dialogue of how it was written, I think there were some choppy moments of dialogue throughout some of the show, but I thought that how they wrote that was so intentional and so well thought out. It was, you knew that was coming, right? Like you knew the battle was coming with them at some point, and to have that much anticipation and then deliver on it, I think it's truly stunning, amazing. And I think my only, again, just observation, even, I don't even know if it's a critique. My only observation was I felt like once you had that moment, I think there was a bit of like, okay, so how do we land the plane on this episode now? Like, okay, we had this beautiful, amazing moment. Joe and I were texting back and forth a little bit yesterday, and we were talking about, he's asking me questions like, okay, where do we go with Reva from here? Right. So like, she knows everything. And I thought you guys, DDoc, did such a great job on the last episode of, breaking down, shot by shot by shot. One of the questions that has surfaced with me, while there's so much that was good, I thought they did such a great job of retconning so many things from every different time period of Star Wars into the show. My question was, I guess, what was the hope and intent behind Reva and what we were trying to do with her character, and where are we trying to set her up moving forward? I felt like the ending was so clunky and funny to go like, okay, wait, I think it was episode 5 where she revealed that she's the youngling from there. And it just made me go like, Joe raised the point in the text and just said like, and I think Steve Glosson talked about it last week, the idea of, so you want to get revenge on Vader, and the way to do that is to kill other Jedi while we're doing like, it felt a little confusing to me as far as like, wait, we have all the trappings of this beautiful story that's going on. And it kind of goes full circle back to the beginning. We were talking about true villains, right? Like, I feel like there was so much potential with her character, like First Order, or not for what, Fallen Order. That's what I'm thinking of. The Inquisitor, the ninth sister in that, even though she has this part where she kind of wavers at the end, is a bad character all the way through. And you're kind of scared of her. Like, you're like, man, you're like, we're going to have Drew Karpyshyn on the show in a couple weeks. That's the closest thing in live action I've seen to Darth Zana from the Bane trilogy books, of just like, you're terrifying to me and awesome. And I felt like even the young lady that played Reva, I didn't think it was bad acting by any means. I think it was probably writing that, okay, like, what are we actually trying to achieve with this character, and what are we trying to do? Like, that's the one that has surfaced to me, and maybe I'm alone in that, but that's the one that has come back and just gone, okay, what was the hope? Like, again, we're looking for bad characters. I'm trying to imagine a universe where even an injured, Maul or Grievous or anybody would get bested by Beru and Owen. I love that they tried to make them look cool, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I was just confused of, hey, where are we going with this? And What are we trying to do?
Well, that's like the wounded Kylo fight.
Yes.
You know, there's a little bit of that. Like, you could argue that, but the Reva character is interesting because the conversation I've seen online is that supposed to be Revan reimagined in some sort of way? Will she wind up with, you know, the going that route, or they're just going to repurpose that storyline through her because the name is similar? I think if you're not as really close of a name, just pick another name, because now if you are going to do Revan, you got Reva and Revan. It's okay. It's fine. It's whatever. You got Yoda and Yaddle. Whatever. Yeah. You know, it's fine. But there is it's, I think, it's the same, matching your expectation with the Grand Inquisitor of this. You know, you do have in your mind what the Inquisitors are supposed to be established either through the cartoons or through the games, and that's a pretty high bar, especially if you're talking about the most recent game with the Ninth Sister. So fantastic interpretation, and you know, what do you do? I think to your point of her being close and what do you do, I think that is specifically by design. I think there's no problem with that. That is solid as a rock, because it is not only the worst punishment for a Jedi from a Sith, it is also the way of the Sith. You're naturally supposed to kill me if you're better than me as my apprentice. Bring it, young Jedi. I've turned you all the way. If you do, you just proved me right. Congratulations. You are what I thought you were and you hoped you weren't. You know, even you know, there's no escape. You know, so it's I love that, especially with the context of the first episode. You see the group of kids, and then you see the storage unit, and you're like, is that the kid from there? And you know, we're in the whole canon, there are not very many people of color represented. Yeah. So when you see this young little girl, you identify her, and your immediate is, I wonder if it's Reva. And then seeing that play out later, I have no problem with any of that. I have no problem with the closeness. My problem is like, you should have been catching Vader while he's pulling the doors off, while he's busy forcing, stick him right then. Don't rear back, just poke, like, put several holes in that dude immediately, you know.
Turn your helicopter blade on, man.
But that's all we do that, the movie's over and we don't have anything fun to watch, you know. So I liked Reva as a character. I liked the actress that played her. I don't have any problems with that. I didn't have really that many problems with Rey. It was the story that was being followed that was the issue, and I am curious to see what they do with her. She's not a big priority on the timeline, but that's part of that new group that you're establishing. And I think that's part of, if you look at the MCU kind of establishing, especially right now where you have all these, well, there's this Miss Marvel, there's America Chavez and Multiverse of Madness. You know, you've got these seeds planted now of characters that you can involve in different ways later, because now they're fully established. You know who they are, where you didn't at all before because they weren't. And for the general populace, that's Ahsoka as well now, because she's now in live action. So there's a lot of who do you trust, especially with that information. That's risky business. I was like, why Raja looked back at the thing he dropped or whatever and didn't go back and get it. I'm like, dude, I'm also like, man, bail. Use some code, man. Use some code, bro. You know? Come on, dude. But those are things you have to have those mechanics in a film. You know, as a writer, as a filmmaker, you want to try to not placate, and you want to treat your audience as a smart audience. But it is a global audience with Star Wars, so you've got to accept some of the silly chase stuff, but the slow chase. That was a PTSD moment for me from Holdo maneuvers and things like that. Where you've got a slow chase, like, how can I can't speed up and get you. But really for me, it was the bobbling around on the one, and then you cut to the inside and everybody's just sipping tea and being good, like,
playing cards. And
you think maybe they should have been like, all right, so this is gonna be, but you can't have the conversation that they had if you do that. So,
Right.
you have to decide which way you're going to go. So it's all of that's
Right.
fine. You get to pick and choose how you might do it from the couch, but till you're there trying to
Totally.
realize your vision with all of these parts moving, until you have any version of experiencing that, I say, just watch and enjoy.
Totally. Totally. And I wonder, my last little piece that came up just in the last week thinking of it is, I felt like after that Kenobi fight happened, the question that keeps coming to my mind is like, how do we enter into new? And what I mean by that is like, I so loved this show for so many different reasons. So good. At the same point, when Reva was coming for Owen and Beru and Luke, in the back of my mind, I go, I know how this ends. And I know that, neither of them are going to get killed because they get torched later. And, Luke is not going to get killed because, he goes on and does his thing and makes that happen. And I'm just wondering where the extent is where we continue to go back and we cannibalize the timeline and we add all these different things. And like I'm dreaming and hoping of the day that we can go beyond the sequels into Uncharted. I don't know how this is going to end up. It's I so wish I could have been alive during the original trilogy when, Darth Vader says, "No, I'm your father." And everybody gasps in the theater and goes, "What?" And then they sit and they got to wait for 3 years to figure out.
That's why I don't
is he
have
full
hair.
of
It
crap?
blew it off.
See what I'm saying? But that's because
that's
we're
where I
moving
lost it.
into new, even
Age
like
4.
the new shows that are coming out, like Andor, it's going to be awesome. I also know that there's a point
Andor
that comes.
looks gorgeous.
It looks awesome, but I also know that he gets obliterated on whatever planet. Of course, I can't remember. Scarif.
Yeah,
he gets obliterated.
We knew that from the original trilogy, we already knew how Darth Vader became Darth Vader. He and Obi-Wan fought.
That's it. And I love it. And I think it's great. I'm curious, how do we get into I don't know. And I'm got to be careful what I'm asking for because I don't want to be
the Sith.
Yeah.
Is like you may wish yourself out of that. We just to your point. Now I know how Owen got his limp. I know where the T16 model came from. You don't need to know all the minutiae.
I was gonna say, were you begging and going, man, I really wish I knew how Owen got his limp.
It may not be the most important
A tragic
point,
moisture farming accident.
but the attention to detail and showing that is interesting. I do want to see, that's part of why I wanted to see the squadrons kind of set up, because you get, all right, I get this group of people. You don't have to be. Did you guys watch? Was it Resistance? The animated?
Yeah.
Dude, great show.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of kids, random characters. Some of those I grew to really love over the show. I just tuned into because I liked the style, because I thought it was like Tron Uprising, which is a great show. If you haven't seen Tron Uprising, man, you're missing out. Voice acting is superb. But that's got a great, unique line of all the characters in there are brand new. Similar to Rebels, they were like, all right, here's some, and we're gonna bring in some later on that are more legacy characters. But even those aren't the main until you do bring in Vader or something.
Right.
I think there's plenty of room for it. Even if you just pick up and run, this is what I was hoping for of Boba Fett. I wanted to see some of the homies come in. I love Black Chrysanthemum. I love seeing, some of the elements that were there to play. But I'm like, man, if somebody's going to hire some people, it would have been great to have seen more of these cats just show up, because then again, there's more seed planting. You don't need every Easter egg, but if you're going to pick up and run with something, Hondo Ohnaka is a great place to start, because you talk about pirates and space. It doesn't have to all be lightsabers in space. There's plenty of good stories that I've thought of that, I've seen in different episodes that are standalones. You might feel like are filler episodes, but show some of that. I'm fine with even watching kids get their crystals. That was one of the most captivating episodes, watching, some of those little younglings go out and try to sort their way as Padawans and find their crystals. That, especially if you got a kid, that
Mhm.
changes the whole perspective and who your market is. So
Right.
you can have what I expect and hope from Andor, which is this great character. How did he get? Yeah, you know what happens to him or whatever, but he's got plenty of life. That's like James Bond. Yeah, well, we just keep changing out. People keep making James Bond movies, and or whatever, Mission Impossible. You pick any franchise, but there's good territory out there in the universe, as explained already, that could be done. And same thing back in time. You want to go back to the old Republic?
Yep.
Like, hey, let's let you plenty of lightsabers back there. So
Plenty of lightsabers. I like that. That's good. Hey, we've been going for a long time. Rick, so appreciate you being on the show and doing it. But just would be curious on any closing thoughts. DDoc, you got any closing thoughts for us?
No, I mean, I enjoyed talking to Rick here. I mean, I went on a crash course looking at some of his stuff he's done, and Rick, I'll be following you from now on. I mean, I could not make it to the ICCC because I was having a baby right around that time, and I could not, the risk was there that I could go and she could have the baby while I was in Nashville. I'm in Philly, so I did not have the pleasure of meeting you there. Yeah, I know.
A smart decision on your part.
Way smart.
Yeah.
Your relationship remains intact. Good job.
She was having contractions around that time, but then we didn't have the baby till like 2 weeks later. So I definitely could have went, but we made the right call there. So everything is good. But no, I mean, I'll be following you. I appreciate having you on, and I mean, we'll love to have you on again in the future. And when you are directing something for Star Wars, just remember us, all right? You got to come back after you direct something for Star Wars.
You know it. Yeah, that's the whole point. That is how we get by. It's a family that we create making movies, and the fan base are our extended family that help us be able to make movies. So it's this symbiotic relationship that works together. I'm on one side of the camera right now, one side of the fence, and I hope to be on the other side to help give this side what we want. That's really, we love it. And we're trying to be good stewards of the franchise. And, hopefully one day, I've had a good success, and I want to make sure everybody that hears this knows that you can do anything that you want. They were locking me up for doing the thing, and I just kept doing it. They say, get a real job. I just kept doing it, following what I loved. And I've got a couple of movies out there already that are our movies that we made. We came up with the stories. They could be loved and cherished by generations later on or whatever, but we're doing it. We're living our dream. And so if I could have done that, it seems like just as easy to be able to get into something similar already. Come on. Let's do it. So you can do it, whatever it is. Don't let them tell you you can't do it. You can do it.
Yeah, that's awesome, Rick. Well, Rick, thank you so much for jumping on with us tonight. Again, everybody go follow Rick at Rick Prince on Instagram, on Twitter. And as always, if you're not following us on social media already, follow us on Twitter at Rule the Galaxy SW. We're also on Instagram at Rule the Galaxy SW. You can email us questions. Please email us questions. We'd love to answer those. If you heard something tonight, you're like, Nick is full of crap about the Kenobi series, and we need to call him and inflict some justice on it. Send us an email at rulegalaxysw@gmail.com. I get that right, DDoc?
Yep.
Got it. Okay. And we're on TikTok, DDoc.
Yep.
Right on. I'll have to follow you guys back. I've got it on some of the socials, but I haven't jumped over to TikTok yet. So I have to
DDoc is a TikTok maniac, man.
I actually did just share prop making wise. I did make some lightsaber hilts that I just shared on there. I'm a plumber, so I made a couple lightsaber hilts out of plumbing parts recently, and
those look awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to follow you guys up.
That one does look like it could be straight out of Fallen Order. The brass one or the copper one, yeah.
This one I pretty much was just like Darth Maul, but like almost like Old Republic style. And this is literally made out of any drain in your bathroom you would have. That's all that this is made out of. This is the part where your little sink would pop up and close it if anybody's watching us on YouTube. And then this other one was just literally me just grabbing random scrap copper pieces I had and soldering them together. And then I thought the top kind of looked like Darth Maul's horns a little bit. And yeah, those are the random things that we share on our TikTok and clips from the podcast and all that fun stuff. So I love it. we have a little bit of a fan base on there that we're growing too. So it's cool. It's fun.
Where can they follow us on that?
We're just Rule the Galaxy podcast, one word on, or, there might be some underscores, but if you looked up Rule the Galaxy podcast, you'll find us on there.
It's killer. Well, guys, thanks so much for another great show. Seriously, so fun to get on and always talk Star Wars. Until next time, friends, may the Force be with you.